Don't mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.
I just think that would be fun.
Hey there and welcome to episode 98 of the Dumb Leaders podcast. Now, you may have heard that Facebook's been in the news here in Australia and been in the news for basically taking the news off their platform. And it's been a funny situation driven from a policy from the Australian government that forces digital platforms like Google and Facebook and others to pay news publishing companies for the content that's shared on their platforms. Now, in a nutshell, what happened was Facebook removed news for Australian users of the site. And as a direct consequence of them being forced to pay for the news that's being shared on their platform. Now, at the end of the day, I feel that it's really not going to end well for either party, because trust is a very valuable commodity, and I know that trust has been diminished for all parties in this particular aspect. So let's just firstly have a little bit of a look at what the Australian government or the legislation was attempting to do. Now, as you know, traditional media is struggling at the moment with revenue, and this is due in part to a significant component of their revenue being shifted online advertising, online marketing. Now, due to this revenue loss, newspapers have ultimately struggled, and because of the nature of the newspapers and the fact that we all need the press, they got a sympathetic ear from the Australian government, which set about legislating payment for the news that, in their words, was being published by these digital platforms, and they were making money from it. Now, the real concept here is the shift of revenue. So the digital platforms, as we know, are immensely successful, while publishing houses or newspapers is now almost an obsolete or an irrelevant sort of an industry, even though it's needed, even though it's muchly needed in our society. And like many industries, news publishing has been disrupted. And in the broader sense, just because your industry has been disrupted shouldn't mean that you should be compensated. What it should mean is that you reinvigorate your model, that you should build new revenue streams and even negotiate new revenue streams with the very people that have disrupted you. You shouldn't lobby for any government to enact legislation that's going to help you. Because this is where the legislation is fundamentally wrong, because Google is a search engine. Facebook is a social media platform. Now, Google shows search results and allows people to find your content. And in a world where 98% of people use Google as a search engine, you want your content on Google. And you will do whatever it takes for that that content to be found by Google. Now, in the broader sense, Facebook provides a platform for people to share their content. So, to share content. So whether it's a update status from a personal account or whether it's the latest news on video or a link to an article back on their website, whether it's a business or a news media, I mean, it's a platform to people to share content, and it's a platform for you to get your content in front of others. And this is what's been missed out of this whole scenario. The media companies have a choice to be on the platform, and at the moment, well, they choose to be on the platform until Facebook took them down. Now, Facebook has reacted to the legislation by pulling news from their platform. Now, I've said this many times, it's their platform. They've got a right to do that. But many would argue that Facebook are bullying Australia and its users. The delete Facebook hashtag has trended, and many with very little understanding have threatened to leave the platform. And as another consequence, or as another aside, the suggestion that the advertising revenue that fuels Facebook is said to be down. So let's face it, Facebook make a lot of money, but losing advertising from Australia won't necessarily affect their profits greatly. But I guess it's the implications for other countries that may bring Facebook back to the bargaining table. Now, Facebook has a platform that makes a lot of money. They make this money from users using the platform to share content. Now, the news that is shared on the Facebook platform is not shared by Facebook. It's shared by the news companies themselves. So, and I guess the question is, on the Facebook platform, we've got users, we've got businesses, we've got media companies. Why should it only be the media companies are the ones getting paid? That's the question. So fundamentally, Facebook already provide many avenues for users to make money from their platform. They've got marketplace, we've got business pages, there's shops that are now allowed on business pages, and now you can even run paid events. And maybe in the scheme of things, that's all geared towards the business or the personal consumer, but maybe there is the opportunity, like YouTube, for a bit of revenue share on some of the video content from the high quality media outlets. And really, when I look at it from a broad-based sense, I think that would potentially be something that would be fair. News media shouldn't be paid just for sharing a link which 9 times out of 10 goes to a paywall on their site anyway. But obviously, if they are sharing or promoting videos, obviously that is an opportunity for some revenue share. Because at the moment, all those ads on all those videos, the money is going to Facebook. So if you're a high quality content producer, maybe there's an opportunity for some revenue share. I'm not sure. But I guess in the scheme of things, to me, there's no winners. The Australian government has lost trust in this because they seem to be standing up for the News Limited corporations. And many people have been saying that they've been puppets of Murdoch in this particular thing. But also, Facebook has lost trust in the way that it was such a harsh reaction. And they didn't take down just news pages, but many other pages like government, health, weather, and many community pages. So over and very heavily handed was the way that Facebook responded. Now, there's no doubt that Facebook were heavy-handed, but in the same breath, so was the government in suggesting this legislation. So, but two wrongs, you know what the old saying is, two wrongs certainly do not make a right. But one thing that is clearly evident is the power that big tech have over all of us, over our lives. And fundamentally, from a leadership perspective, from a user perspective, or an everyday perspective, that is certainly something that we should all be concerned about. Hey, I'm Tony Curl. Thanks for tuning in to the Dumb Leaders podcast. I shall see you all again next week. Bye for now.
Don't mock. I'm not a fool. And people who know me personally know that I am not a fool. But I won't get into the details of those. I just want people to realize that I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool. Don't mock. I'm not a fool.